Well, hi everybody, and welcome to CSS 210, Physical Security. I'm Dr. Brian Wisniewski, and I'll be your instructor for the next 15 weeks. This is a blended class, so we will meet in person several times during the course of the semester. Those dates and times have been posted in the syllabus. Most of the meetings will be 2 days in a single week. There is 1 week, I think we only have one, and the second block of time, I'm just going to be on campus and open to sit down and discuss projects with you and those kinds of things. So I'll be in the classroom, but you don't need to be that particular day. But the dates are listed. So let's just jump right in and start talking about physical security. And sometimes people get a little confused on the importance of physical security. There's a big push on cybersecurity these days, which is important, obviously. And we probably have a few cybersecurity majors in this course, as I normally do. But let's just kind of compare the two, because I think there's some eye-opening evidence that you might want to think about. So ask yourself this question: which is more important to you, your cybersecurity or your physical security? Now, cybersecurity could mean that your phone gets stolen, right? Your information. Everybody puts their life on their cell phones these days, or your laptop or your iPad, or someone taps into one of your accounts, your bank account perhaps. Pretty important stuff. And then we have your physical security, whether you and your person are secure. Most people would look at those two statements and say, well, both are really important and both are equally important. But I challenge that statement, and I'll tell you why. So I want you to think about 4 scenarios. If something bad had to happen to someone you love, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, husband, wife, child, parents, close friends, grandparents, whomever, somebody, just think about somebody you love. If something bad had to happen, which of these 4 would you consider to be the least impactful and the most impactful? Identity theft resulting from the loss of a credit card number. Now, somebody could use your credit card number and rack up quite a bill and really raise havoc, right? The theft of their cell phone. We talked about it with all their info on it, and let's just say that whoever stole it can get beyond the facial recognition software on the average iPhone, which is not all that hard to get around. And all your info or all their info is gone. Okay. How about someone breaking into their room or their apartment or their home while they were at home? So they're, sitting at night watching TV, and someone breaks in and they confront someone in their home at night alone. Okay? Or being at work when an active shooter comes into the workplace. So working in the mall, working in a factory, working in an office building, and someone comes in with ill intent who is armed and starts shooting the place up. Which of those 4 would you consider to be the least impactful, and which would you consider to be the most impactful? Now, those first 2 were obviously related more towards cybersecurity, right? The hacking of a bank account or the stealing of a credit card or credit card number and racking up somebody's bill. And perhaps once you have a credit card number and you can prove that you're that person, which isn't all that hard to do again, then you become that person and you open accounts in their name and you access all of their information, and life gets very bad. Okay? And the cell phone, again, I'm not going to harp on that because you all have a cell phone, I'm sure, and you know what happens. You guys are tethered to your phone. If you really, really lost your phone, not just misplaced it in your dorm room or apartment or home, but actually lost it, most of you would probably be, quite distraught. I personally would probably dance around a little bit because, it means work to me. So, but those are cybersecurity incidents. The second 2, an active shooter or someone breaking into a home, is a breach of physical security. Someone has invaded your space or can harm you physically. And if we look at this, and I hope all of you have seen this before, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Very common diagram used. This pyramid is used in all kinds of psychology, beginning psychology classes, but it really breaks down from the most important needs to the least important needs, even though all needs are, have their importance in our lives. But if you think about it, on the bottom is your physiological needs, right? You need to breathe, you need to eat, you need to drink water, right? You need shelter and clothing, and you need to sleep. Without those things, your life would pretty much end, right? Even the person who is homeless normally has shelter, although it is not an acceptable level of shelter, but they find a place because if you were to stay out in the elements in Pittsburgh area, where most of you probably lived or live now, or Michigan, where I live, stay out on a February night and the elements will get you. You will die of exposure. Physiological needs, the most important, the base of the pyramid. Above that is our safety and security, just in general, and that term is used generally here. But your health, your employment, your property and family and social stability. Then love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization. So the closer you get to the bottom of the pyramid, the closer it is to actually life itself. And I would suggest that someone breaking in your home that could do you harm, or an active shooter in the workplace, which we see all too often in the news, is impactful upon your physiological needs. Either one of those things can stop you from breathing. They can stop you from living, right? The cybersecurity incidents, although important, really come up to that next line: health, employment, property being the main one, social stability and sense of connection with your phone, right? But generally speaking, a cybersecurity incident will affect you at a higher level of this pyramid, and the higher level of the pyramids are more easily recoverable. Whereas if that red zone down there, something happens to you in that red zone, I can put it to you even more bluntly. Would you rather have someone walk up and take your phone and your wallet and all of your identification, or would you rather have that person come up and hit you square in the face with a baseball bat on a full swing? Both do you harm. One is more cyber-related, one is more information-related, really, and information today is mostly logical information, is mostly digital information, therefore cyber, and one is your physical security. Most people hate to be harmed at all. Harm in and of itself is a bad thing, right? It is not a positive word. Gosh, I woke up this morning, I sure hope I get some harm today. You don't want your reputation harmed, you don't want to be harmed financially, and you don't want to be harmed physically. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I believe is very accurate and time-tested and makes perfect sense, puts safety and security as the second most important human need. And that safety and security really is impactful in a cyber or information incident, whereas the physiological needs are more impactful in a physical way. To that end, my theory is that while cyber and information security is extremely important, and it is important to our economy, important to our safety, important to our financial security, right? Physical security is impactful to our physical self and harm to our physical being, amongst other things. And therefore, I think that there is a downplay in recent decades, really, of physical over cyber. And we're going to see that start to shift. And so this is a great time to be taking this course. And I think you'll see that if you can protect someone's physical security well, then there are impacts to their cybersecurity and information security as well. So let's start with a definition of physical security. And we'll go over this again in the course of the semester. So, don't get hung up on, oh my gosh, I've got to know these answers for the quiz this week. And there is a quiz this week, and I'll explain that in a bit. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows kind of what we're getting ourselves into, right? And physical security, the definition we're going to use, and there are thousands of them, but I like this three-step definition the most. It's the means by which we influence the environment to protect people, products, resources, and reputation. We influence the environment. We make changes to protect people, products, resources, and reputation. We protect our person and those other interests listed through a variety of physical, electronic, and procedural measures in a concerted way. We use the natural environment, man-made devices, and behaviors to deter, delay, detect, deny, and defend our interests. You will see those 5 Ds again, and you will use those 5 Ds. Because when you set up a physical security plan, which you will do this semester, a real and true physical security design and plan for a building, you're going to want to make sure that you cover deterrence and delay and detection and denial and defense of your interests. And you will be you will be using those as litmus tests against your plan to make sure that you have those things covered. One of the things in here that usually trips people up is procedural measures. And we don't always think of physical security. We think of physical meaning a thing. But I will give you an example. I'm an Air Force vet, and at one point I was stationed at a facility that had nuclear weapons storage area. And on the fence, coming into that area, there was a sign that said, "Warning, use of deadly force authorized without warning beyond this point." Now, it's just a sign, right? It was a, 24 by 18 piece of metal, printed up with a white background and black and blue and red lettering on it, right? That sign wasn't going to stop you. It was not going to deny you access to that area. But did it delay a lot of folks? Oh, heck yes. Because, use of deadly force without warning is kind of a, that's kind of a one-way thing. Once that decision is made, yeah, pretty much are going to the light, right? So procedural is something that we will cover in depth early in the course, because I think that it is probably the most unused part of physical security, right? We're going to talk about all those electronic devices and physical devices, barriers and things, but we're also going to talk about procedures and how you can change behaviors to increase your security posture. So don't let that trip you up. We're going to make changes to the environment to protect people, products, resources, and reputation. We're going to use physical stuff. We're going to use electronic stuff. We're going to use procedures, and we're going to make sure that they're all melded together in a concerted way so that we have a good balance of those things so that we can do what? Deter, delay, detect, deny, and defend our interests. But before we do any of that, we got to figure out how we're going to do it. So we're going to do it through a combination of lectures, and I apologize, sometimes my lectures get dry, but I try to sound excited. There's some reading. It's not difficult. There'll be some writing, and I'm big on writing, although not writing lots, but writing well. The biggest part of this course is a design project where you will, over the course of the term, do an actual physical security design of an actual building that actually stands somewhere. It's a real design of a building. And you will apply all that you learn in stages, in steps as we go. And at the end of the semester, you should have a workable physical security design for that building. So the lectures. I record the lectures using a program that I purchased called Screencast-O-Matic. I know, kind of a funny name, right? The reason I like Screencast-O-Matic, first off, when I was teaching in graduate schools, one of my colleagues there introduced me to it, and I really kind of like it. I know Zoom is a great program to record lectures in as well. And if enough people say that I need to do that, then I'll do that. But I like Screencast-O-Matic because I can also automatically upload to protected YouTube channels. So those of you who work jobs, and I know a number of students that I have work other jobs besides being a student, you can, at the beginning of the week, copy the address from D2L, go in and just copy the address to YouTube and watch the lecture or listen to the lecture on your phone. Please don't do it while you're driving, because I do put stuff on the screen and sometimes I embed videos, and that would be a dangerous thing, so please be safe. But I want to make it as easy as possible. You can get to D2L on your phones, and I'm sure most of you have done it, but it is kind of clunky if you ask me. But the YouTube videos, I upload those at the beginning of the week. They're protected so that nobody can just go in, but you have to have the link actually to put into your browser to put into YouTube. But once you've done it, I think it just makes it easier for you. So I'd appreciate any feedback if you thought that was a good thing or a bad thing. So they're portable. Most go about 45 minutes. I have a couple that reach about an hour, but for the most part, 45 minutes to an hour. If they go longer than an hour by any stretch for any reason, on those that I'll add later on, excuse me, I will let you know that, and I'll put an intermission in the middle of it, right? Because you don't want to listen to one person talk for an hour. You do that when you sit in a classroom sometimes, and that can go on for a while. So I provide the slides, just as I will for this one, as a PowerPoint file. It'll be in each week, so you'll see the link to the lecture, which takes you to a screen where it will play on either D2L, or you can download it to YouTube, the address to YouTube. and there'll be slides. The slides will be exactly the same, just not narrated, just a PowerPoint. I would strongly suggest you print those out. Now, sometimes they go 18, 19, 20 slides. Don't print one per page. At the most, print 2 on each side. And use those to take your notes, because when it comes time to take quizzes, they're a great reference. And if you have the slides themselves and you've taken your notes on them from the lecture, I would suggest that you're going to do pretty darn good on quizzes, and you'll have the notes for your discussions, and you can use them as you go back to reference it for the final and for the final project. Reading. We don't have a required text for the course. As you know, you didn't have to go out and buy one. This is the first semester I will teach this course without a required text. Now check that. I think it's one of the second. I've reduced all of the textbooks in my courses based on something called a FITS model. And the FITS model is based on the fact I had a student from Slippery Rock named Brittany Fitz, who you may also know, or you may see because she is an active member of the Slippery Rock Borough Fire Department. And she came to me at the beginning of one semester and said, I can't go out and get the texts right now. I'm going to have to get them later. Is there anything I can do? And I said, yeah, don't buy them. Just don't do it. We're going to try an experiment to see if you can do the course by scrounging together the information for the reading through other sources. I don't want you to borrow the textbook from anybody, but I want you to go, because I wasn't using the text all that much. And she was able to pass both courses with an A, not using textbook. And if she's able to do it, you're able to do it. And so thank you, Miss Fitz. Everybody should say thank you if you ever meet her, because she's saving you $100 per course, because we're just not going to use the textbook, and we'll see how it goes. And at the end of the semester, if you think a textbook would have helped you, you can tell me that, because you won't have to go back and buy it, because you're not going to take the course again. But I'd appreciate your feedback on that and everything in the course, really. But I'd like to understand whether or not you thought it would have been easier with a textbook. Now, I provide readings and videos, or I provide a reference so that you can sign into the Bailey Library, and anything that I reference would be available there electronically with multiple users. So there may be some articles where I say this is the reference at Bailey Library, and you're going to need to know how to use the library's electronic system, and you all have access to it. It's part of your tuition and fees. And if you don't, the librarians are more than happy to help you, and I will make the appointment with you if you want, and I'll have them come into one of our classes if enough people are having trouble with it. And they will show you how easy it is to access those articles and look at them online and download them if you need them in some cases. So everything will be provided for you when it comes to reading. You don't have to go out and buy anything, but you may have to go to the library's online system and download or open up some files to see them. And I'm not going to spoon feed you and give you a tutorial right away on this is how you get to the library. That is something you're going to need to know. So I'm sure you can figure that out. You'll need to read to pass quizzes, and you're going to need to reference readings in discussion posts where it's required. And in many cases, I will say I want one reference or two. So you're going to need to reference things from the reading or other sources. If you've got other sources that you think are better, or something you've picked up in a magazine, or something that you read in another course and you think it applies, power to you. Put it in there. But you will need to have some references. So I would strongly suggest that you do the reading, because if you don't, you're not going to know what it says, you're not going to be able to reference it, and you won't be able to get some of those things done. And you definitely will need to do the reading to pass the quizzes. So the reading's not hard. It's not really time consuming. I do a lot of internet articles that are 2-pagers. I do have a couple academic articles that go a little longer, but for this course, there's not many of those. Those are more for my security management course and for my corporate security law course. Those get a little bit longer, but the reading's not hard. Look, just do the reading. If it takes you 20, 25 minutes in a week to do it, and you didn't have to pay for the book to do it, I mean, come on, give me a break. Get the reading done, guys. And then there's going to be writing, because there's going to be discussions. Discussions are just that. A discussion is a two-way. Die meaning two, right? Discussion between two people, right? Responses are as important as initial posts. So you'll do an initial post. If there's a discussion assigned, the due date for the initial post is always going to be Wednesday at midnight. Actually, it's 11:59 p.m. because I can't set it for midnight because people get confused. Well, which midnight was it, right? Which day is it? So 11:59 p.m. on Wednesdays. Because you're going to submit them on Wednesday, that gives people Thursday and Friday to do the required responses. Or Saturday and Sunday, too, because it doesn't close until Sunday. But some people want to get their work done by Friday and take the weekend off. Some people can't do that because they've got jobs, things like that, so they got to get it done by Wednesday. But you can post up until Sunday. Just know that you're not going to get a lot of love back and forth on discussions. And if you read the syllabus, which you need to read the syllabus this week, it'll tell you, I don't want to see you responding back and forth to the same person, and I don't want to see dead-end discussions like, wow, I read your post, I thought it was really good, you really explained that well. Thanks, have a great week. Okay, there are minimum word counts. I know that sounds silly, but we do minimum word counts so that I don't get those types of answers. And I want the discussions to keep going. Try to get a string going. Engage in the discussions. Usually there are 2 responses due, and it'll say in the instructions for each one. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but normally 2, and I think in this course they're almost all 2. I didn't go back and check, but you'll get the instructions every week when you need to do them. And try to engage with people in an actual discussion. And you're going to do that in a collegial way, right? Don't start a discussion. It's not a rant. It's not a debate, right? It's not a competition in that way. If you disagree with what somebody said, I always suggest you find what you agreed with first. Bob, good post. I agree with your point that A equals 2. However, where you say that B equals 3, I somewhat disagree, and here is why. And then let them respond back saying, and if somebody does that to you, don't come back and say, well, who the hell do you think you are, questioning. That's not going to cut it, right? It's, I understand your point. Thank you for your response. I understand your point. I'm going to stick with my answer of B equals 3 because of this, 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 and this. It's okay to agree to disagree. We're adults now, right? This isn't high school where we have to, and it's not online rants in some chat room somewhere. We're going to treat each other as professionals, and we're going to discuss things back and forth. There's not a lot of discussions, but when there are, you will find that I will engage with them. And if I engage with you and ask you a question, you need to answer that. That will be part of the grading. There are rubrics for all the grading, so that way, nobody can say, well, you graded this person easier than me. There are required elements, and the rubrics are in the system. You can see them, and you'll see exactly why you got the grade you got. But engage in them as you would an actual discussion. Have a little fun with those. It's hard to do that when you post on Wednesday and then don't go back in until 11 p.m. on Sunday. That may happen, and that's allowed, but it's not going to allow you to get that rich discussion going, which is going to increase your grade. So just try to engage in the discussions. And then the major portion of your grading and the major portion of this course, we will start on it before the midterm. You'll start getting information about it. We have some basics we have to go over first. You got to do some groundwork first, but then we will start the design project. And that is the one thing that I hear from students that they really enjoy about this. In this course, you will be the security manager, and I'm going to be your boss. I want you to almost role play to that, even in other interactions with me, right? Would you call your boss at 2 a.m. to say, hey, I'm not going to get my work done that's due tomorrow? You probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't have a job. So I want you to practice with me as your boss. Doesn't mean you can't call me and I have hours, and I'm not opposed to that at all. Those who've had me in courses before understand that, I answer the phone at night all the time, or I answer texts. As long as it's not bedtime, you can get me. But I want you to treat this course as if it's a job. We're practicing for your job. That's really what a lot of your major courses are. You're learning stuff, but you're also learning how to apply it in a real world scenario, and that's what I want you to do. You're going to create a full facility security design, physical security design, over the course of the term. And as we go over the different elements of physical security, right, those purely physical, the electronic, the procedural, you will build a plan that shows you how this all applies to a building, to a facility, to something that you would be securing in that role. You're going from a totally unprotected distribution warehouse to a fully protected site. And in the end, you'll be surprised. You will need to justify the design. And in one part of the course, we will apply a real life budget. I will give you real costs for installation and procurement of the different elements. So I will tell you that I've had people that put 100 cameras on my warehouse, and I give them a budget, and then they find out that cameras installed are going to run them around $5,000 a piece because of the wiring and the cabling and the engineering. There are costs, and these are real costs. I will use a real cost catalog. So you're going to get a real taste of what these things cost. When you see a camera hanging on sheets, don't think they put that up there the same as a $199 Ring camera. Doesn't work that way. Okay? You're going to need to justify the cost. And if you put too many of any one thing and you get out of balance or you overprotect, then you will overspend, and I will force you to reduce, which is not as hard to do. And it's something that you're going to learn to do, actually, because it's a skill. Value engineering, in this case, is a skill, right? When somebody comes back and says, yeah, I know I gave you $100,000 to do security plan for the building, but the budget got cut because whatever, right? Economies are bad, sales are down, you're only getting $85,000. You're going to need to learn to make cuts. So we're going to make you very cognizant of the cost of things. And so you're going to protect stuff, but you're going to do it within a budget. It sounds complicated. It's not, because we're going to do it step by step. So how are you going to know what to do? Well, it's easy. You do the weekly work, and you'll see how it's like a puzzle, and we fit that puzzle together all the way through to week 15, when you, in a team environment, will come together. In week 14, actually, you'll come together with your teams and decide on your best team design, and you will present that to me with your budget, and I will test some of your assumptions, and I will ask why you did things, and everybody's design is going to be slightly different. Remember, this is a bit of an art form as opposed to a science. You may say, I put a camera here because that room over there, I want to make a safe room for my executives, so therefore I wanted a camera to see if anybody was trying to break into it during a shooter incident. Someone else may say, but I picked that room over there because I thought it was a better location, so I put my camera there. They're all going to be a little different. That's okay, as long as you can justify it using the things you learn in the course. Everybody can have a slightly different design, and in fact, I would expect that everybody has a different design. And if you read the syllabus, you'll see where there are two designs that I will pick out that for recognition during the course, and there is a prize associated with that. So, but every week will give you new insight on how to physically protect people, property, resources, and reputation. Every week gives you a new way to do that. When we get to the real design meet in the second half of the course, you will find that you have a week of learning about a particular thing and then a week of applying that thing, like cameras and access control systems things. And I'll go over that list in a second. So we're going to study lots of stuff, and here's just a taste of some of the things we're going to touch on. So we're going to look at physical security basics, and we just touched on that a little bit this week, but next week we're going to touch on it some more. We're going to learn what physical security is and is not, and how it plays into a business or organization, how it builds on the business and organization's resiliency. If a business has a physical security incident, someone rams a vehicle into the front of your building because your organization maybe is controversial. You run an abortion clinic, and that is controversial. What your feelings are on it, I don't care, right? Doesn't matter. But know that there are people that feel that that is a bad thing, and someone may run a car into the face of your building if it's not properly protected against such things. If it's not, are you going to be able to stand that business back up in any amount of time? It's called business continuity. Some of you will take a course in it soon. But if you physically protect the building properly, that impact would be much less, and you would be able to continue your operations. So we're going to learn about how it plays into the resilience of an organization. We're going to look at procedural security, rules, policies, signage, all those things that people just don't think about that truly add value and at a very low rate, right? Very inexpensively. Again, that sign that said use of deadly force authorized without warning beyond this point probably stopped a lot of tourists from going and trying to take a look inside to see where the nukes were, right? And if that's the case, didn't it increase our physical security? Absolutely, as a nation it did. So signage and rules and policies and procedures have their value. We're going to look at barriers, physical barriers. Think of things like every one of you lives in a county in the United States, I believe. I don't think we have any foreign nationals in the course. We might. But just think about your county or your parish or your province courthouse, main courthouse. Out in front, I will bet there are big planters that have flowers in them, big concrete planters. And I bet there's a staircase leading up to it, if it's an older building especially. Now think about that same vehicle, right? Someone doesn't like the fact that the court found in a certain way and they're going to do them harm. Those planters, you could put plastic planters out front, right? They'd be easier to install. Heck, you just take them off, two guys carry it off a truck, put it down, fill it up with dirt. They don't rust, they don't rot, they don't crack, right? Good plastics today. And, there you are. You've got those pretty planters. You could make them out of aluminum. They'd be much lighter, right? They wouldn't rust, wouldn't need to be painted. But they're normally made out of concrete, precast concrete, right, with little pebbles on it. Makes them look nice. Weighs a ton. Takes a crane to put them in place. But if you hit them with a pickup truck going at 30 miles an hour, the planter wins. That barrier's there for a reason. And there are other things that are used as barriers that you really just aren't thinking of today. Lights. Lights are hugely important. If you're going to break into some place, or you're going to break into a place in the dark, or you're going to break in when there's lights shining all around, right? The dark is our enemy. When it comes to physical security, we're going to study lights and the different types of lights and what those lights do and what they don't do, how they affect camera coverage if indeed you're going to use cameras. We're going to talk about perimeters and perimeter barriers. Generally speaking, fence lines are used for perimeters in a lot of places, but a lot of places you can't use a fence. You're not allowed to use a fence, or you wouldn't want to use a fence. Can you imagine if we put a fence all the way around Slippery Rock University? When your parents brought you for the first visit to the campus, and if you went up and there was a 6-foot chain link fence with a 45-degree outrig on top with 3 strands of 12-gauge steel barbed wire, 4-pronged barbed wire on top, and a sign that said, deadly force authorized without warning beyond this point, I don't think many of you would have asked mom and dad to endorse that tuition check, right? Perimeters make a difference. And you will find that as a physical security person, that fence adds tremendously to the physical security, but then it detracts from the business and the organization itself, and you'll never get it by the people who are going to give you the money to do it. So we're going to talk about other ways to do perimeters and the use really of natural phenomena to do such things. There's something called crime prevention through environmental design we'll touch on this semester, and maybe more than touch on it because I've had students asked to do more on that subject, where we use physical elements that are part of nature as physical security enhancers. We're going to talk about locks, and you'll never look at locks and doors the same after this course. Most people just don't understand. You go up to the door at Slippery Rock to go into your classroom, and the door is either locked or unlocked. Therefore, all doors are the same. They're a doorknob, and you just turn them, and either they're locked or they're unlocked. But they're not all the same. Some of them have a door lock just on the outside. The key lock is just on the outside, and the knob is smooth inside. Some of them have the little thumb turn on the back so that you can unlock them and leave them unlocked from the inside. Others have keys on both sides, and there's a reason for that. Every lock has its purpose, and every room needs the lock that fits that purpose for the room. And we're going to look at locks, and you're going to go out into the real world. You're going to take pictures for me of different types of locks that we study, and you're going to tell me why that lock was there and whether it's the proper or improper use of that type of lock for that environment. We're going to look at access control. And in access control, I'm generally speaking about automated access control. Think about card readers like you use to get in your rooms at the dorm or in your buildings, right? Use your ID card to get into your room. That's an access control system. That is a very rudimentary access control system. There are others. We'll talk about why you might want to use them, why you might not want to use them, why you don't want to put a card reader on every single door everywhere, why some of the classrooms at the university have locks and others have card readers on them. And then we're going to look at how to design those and how they actually work. And it's kind of interesting that everybody just says, well, it works because, everything's contained right there. The thing on the door recognizes your badge and you get in. But on a true access control system, it's networked, and there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and it's interesting to find out because you can manipulate those things in a lot of ways. Now, once you put a lock on the door and you put up the lights and you've got your perimeter protected and you've got access control, you'll need intrusion detection. That's an alarm system. When you go up to your door in the dorm and you use your card to get into your room and it lets you in, that's great. But if I use a crowbar, that's not so great. There's not an intrusion detection, I would imagine, although there could be built into those devices on the doors. Generally speaking, though, if you don't have intrusion detection, you don't know whether somebody legally went in the room or whether they forced their way in. With an intrusion detection system integrated with talking to the access control system to say, was that a badge just used or was that somebody prying the door open? And the systems are smart enough to tell you that. Then you know when a system has failed and you know that someone has breached your security. Video surveillance systems, we're all familiar with cameras everywhere we go. You will go out into the community during this course, take pictures of cameras and try to tell me why they're there, what they're looking at, why they're looking at it, and whether it was a good investment. I have more pictures of sheets in Slippery Rock on my computer than any one man should. The poor folks at Sheets probably think I'm casing the joint, but they are really a camera-rich environment, and you'll notice that. Family Dollar is it Family Dollar? No, Dollar General, in town, has a fair number of cameras. And some of their placements aren't all that good. And over the course of the semester, I hope you'll be able to look up and go, it's a good place to look at, but that camera placement is terrible. And there's a reason for it. Then we'll look at some biodigital devices. We'll only touch on the biodigital devices 1 week. Those are things that allow access or identify people based on things like facial recognition, fingerprint readers, hand geometry readers. There's even a reader out there. There are voice readers that have been out for a very long time. There are iris scans and retina scans, and there's a difference between the two, and there's a liability associated with one and not the other, which we'll talk about. And then there's even a device out there that is relatively new. Every person has a unique body odor fingerprint, and these readers are made to distinguish you from someone else based on your unique body odor fingerprint. I don't know whether they've been tested or not. It blows my mind that anybody would even think to do that. But hey, it's another biodigital devices, and these are things that use biometrics to measure. Those are kind of the things we're going to look at, and there's a whole lot of stuff in there. Sounds like a lot, but it's going to go pretty quick, and we're not going to get in depth to make you a physical security expert, but we're going to make you someone who's attuned to physical security and able to get to that expert level in record time once you hit the job market. So as in every course, you have to prove what you've learned, right? There's got to be a way for you and I to determine whether or not you are learning to the acceptable level. And so, nobody likes to have the tests and quizzes and papers and all those great things, but they are what they are, and they're a way for you to prove that you are indeed learning what you need to learn. We will have some quizzes. They're usually 10 questions. They are not timed for those who, get in a quiz environment and jam up. We're not going to do any quizzes. Let me rephrase that. I'm not going to give any quizzes while we're in session. in-person session. I think that's a bit of a waste of time. However, if indeed we finish a bit early and there's a quiz that week, I will allow you to open it up and start it in class to see if anybody has real questions on things. My quizzes tend to be a bear. I get very specific in the questions because I need to test that you've done the reading, right? So they're not always easy. Don't freak out if you get a low test grade. You're going to do well on the design. If you apply yourself and you stick with the course for the full 15 weeks, you will pass the course. I've never had anybody who has finished the entire course of any course I've ever taught at 3 different universities. I've never had anybody fail the course when they've showed up every week in some way and done some work, right? Because we catch it early if your work's not going to cut it, and I can tell you got to pick up the pace. And it's only people who, end up with their face on a milk carton because I can't find them because they disappear. Those are the people who fail. Quizzes are not always easy. Okay, but don't freak out if you do bad on one. So be it. If you do bad on the second one, if you do 2 of them, then we'll just say, maybe you're not a quiz taker, but I've got enough design and discussions and other stuff going on, presentations, that even if you didn't pass every quiz, you'd still do well in the course, as long as you do well in the other stuff. There are discussions, and you heard me ad nauseum about discussion, so I won't go over that, but really apply yourself. There'll be milestones in your design where I ask you to submit your drawing. You will need to submit those scanned on a scanner in color. The university has color scanners. The library has color scanners. They are available to you. I used to be able to accept photographs of your work, but they were just too hard to read. And I have to make an assumption as to whether it's good work or bad work, and I don't want to make a poor assumption. You know, the photographs that we take with our cell phones have shadows. They have dark spots. When you're taking a picture of a picture, it never turns out well. So you're going to need a color scanner, right? Printer, hopefully, so you can also print it and have it for yourself for class. Excuse me, but you will need a scanner. And again, they're available at the university, so it's not going to be a heavy lift. And I'll ask you to turn those in, and then I'll say, okay, well, and each time you turn them in, you can make modifications to the work you did before. So if you turn in your drawing when we do locks, and I say, okay, now turn in your drawing on the warehouse and what locks you're going to put places, and I say, you know, I don't think you got the lock stuff right. I think there's some more learning that needs to take place. The next time you submit it, you're going to build on the same drawing. The locks will stay, and then you'll be adding card readers, and the next time you'll be adding cameras, the next time you'll be adding alarms, whatever order we decide to do those. And as you add new things, it doesn't mean you have to stick with the old drawing. You can take stuff out and say, oh, I really don't need to have a card reader on that door. Now that I've thought about it, I can reduce that and move that money someplace else, and I'll just put an alarm on it. That's fine. Make changes as you go along. But you'll need to submit them on time when I ask for them each week or every other week when we get to that point, so that I can look and see how you're doing, and then we can talk about those adjustments. There's going to be a presentation. In week 14, you will do peer review. You'll be broken into teams. I believe there are about 15. I don't know how many names on the list this semester, but teams of about 5 usually work pretty well, 4 or 5. There'll be a team leader. And you will work together in week 14 to take your design and the designs of others and come up with a single team design. That is how it works in the workplace. You take your design and you sit down with a team of others. And funny thing is, with others in the workplace, it's usually the end users. So you put card readers on every door and make sure every door is locked all the time, and find out people will be going in and out of those doors 200 times a day. The end user is going to say, that's too much of a heavy lift here. I can't have people stop and use a card every time, because they're going to be going back and forth between room A and room B all day. That's their job. They move materials from one place to another, and I can't have them constantly going through that. So when you sit with others, be open to change. And then in week 15, your team will meet with me, and I think this semester we may just do it right there in the classroom, and you will present your drawing to everyone to show us what you did. And again, each team drawing will be slightly different than every other team drawing, and that's okay. As long as you can justify what you did, that's a good thing. In the end, for a final, there will be a paper. It's a reflection paper. If you've had me before, it is really a short paper about what you thought was good, what you thought wasn't good, what you learned, what you can apply, and how I can improve the course. I want you to be brutally honest in those. If you hated the course, you tell me you hated the course. If you like the course, you tell me you like the course. And if there's always room for improvement, I take those very seriously. And I have used those papers to change my courses as we go along every semester. My likes and dislikes, real quick. I like interacting with students. You can text me, you can email me, you can call me. I prefer you text before you call, simply so that we don't waste time with back and forth with voicemail messages, right? Text me and tell me who you are and what course you're in, right? Because I don't know everybody just yet. And generally what you're having an issue with. It could be that something doesn't open. You go in on a Monday morning because you're one of those Monday people, and you go to open up the unit and something didn't open. That happens. It happens, I won't say a lot, but my view of D2L and your view of D2L are different. So I think I've got everything set, all the boxes checked so that everything is visible on your end, and I miss stuff. I'm a human being, just as you are. I will treat you with grace. I expect you to treat me the same way. So if you need to contact me, just do that, okay? Read the syllabus, however, if you're going to ask about something that's a course rule. Make sure you know the syllabus. It's a boring read, but you're going to do it this week anyway, and you're going to get credit for doing it. So suck it up, right? And honesty. Do your own work. I have, in my academic career, caught students cheating. I use something called Turnitin, which is available to everybody using D2L. And if you use somebody else's work, it's going to show. Because everybody's work at Slippery Rock and at many other universities go into that system in a major database, and they basically scan and look for similarities. And I have found similarities. So do your own work. I like that. I don't like late work. It's going to get rejected. I can't follow everybody and allow everybody to turn in things late. Due dates are due dates. That's what they are. If you contact me beforehand and tell me that there's a reason you can't do it, I don't want the reason to be I have to work that day. Look, we all have jobs. Remember, you're talking to somebody who works a 40-hour plus job on top of teaching 2 classes. So, I mean, I know what it's like, but I can't use that as an excuse for not turning in my work at my day job or this one. So please get your work in on time. And slackers, look, we're simulating a work environment here. And you're going to be working with teams, you're working with others, people are going to be counting on you, and you're counting on you, and I'm counting on you. Don't slack. Nobody likes working with lazy people, so don't be lazy. So I work a regular job, as I said, and I have to set limits for myself as well. If I burn out, it's not going to help me or anyone else. So the best times to get my attention, office hours, they're listed. I'm not on campus most of the time. I have a small place in Grove City that I come to stay. I bought a small place there just for teaching when I'm on the ground, rather than stay in a hotel, which is what I was doing. But I'm not there all the time like I am at my house in Michigan. I live in West Michigan in beautiful Grand Rapids. So my office hours are generally virtual, but they're yours. And I have some at night, and I have some on Saturdays. And I do that purposely because I want to make it convenient for you. And then most days between 6 and 9 p.m., you can text me, and I'll probably answer pretty quickly. And from noon till 12:45 every day, I go to take a walk because I'm working on some health issues. So you'll find me out there. You may be talking to me huffing and puffing while I'm going up and down the hills, but it's a good time to reach me then, noon to 12:45 on weekdays. But again, don't let those times stop you. If you need something, if you're working on something on the weekend and you can't get it right, you can text me on the weekend. Just know that I have 24 hours to answer you. I try to do it in less than that. I keep track of my response times, and my average over the last several years has been 12 minutes. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be 12 hours. So just understand that if you're going to text me, that I may not be able to answer you back right away. But I do offer the idea to text me when it's not school time, which is different than probably most of your professors, so there is that. But don't let the time keep you from sending me a message. Just know that I may not answer you right away, and I'll try my best to get back to you when I can. So this week, view the lecture, which you just did. You're done. Thank you. Got that checked off the box. Read the syllabus. It's dry. It's boring. It's a syllabus. But read it. Because there's a syllabus quiz, and I want you to take it, and you're either going to agree or disagree with the things in the syllabus. And if you disagree, then you and I will talk, and there's no harm, no foul. If there's a question you have or something that you can't live with, we'll talk through. But in the end, you'll need to agree to the syllabus because it is what it is. Do the introduction. There is a format. I give it in the discussion board. It's not just, hi, my name is Bill, and I live in Pittsburgh, and I look forward to working with everybody. It's not going to cut it. That's not the introduction we're looking for. There's a format for the introduction. I ask specific questions that I would like you to answer. Please use paragraphs. Put in some of your best writing on this introduction. I am going to look at your writing style, amongst other things, this week when you do the introduction. It's not just a group hug here. There are reasons we do it, but also there are people in this course that I do not know, and I would like to know. I like to know my students and a little bit about them and what their strengths, weaknesses, challenges, likes, and dislikes are. Sometime this week, go to the Homeland and Corporate Security Studies office at room 215 in Spots World Cultures building and pick up a box of colored pencils. Dr. Lubinsky should be there, or one of the student assistants. I purchased a whole lot of boxes of colored pencils for you because I don't know whether they carry those in the bookstore or not. Just not didn't know whether it was a standard item, so I just bought them and had them sent to the university. I was going to buy more this semester, and Dr. Lubinsky went into the cupboard and showed me and said, "You think I'm running a kindergarten here? Get rid of some of these colored pencils." So pick up a box of colored pencils. You'll need those to do your drawings. You can use highlighters if you wanted to, and they're brighter, but they're permanent. You can't erase them. You'd have to do the drawing again, and you'll go through a whole lot of pages of the picture of the drawing. If you use color pencils and you're careful with your erasure, you can get away with just a couple of copies of it over the semester. So pick up a box of color pencils from the office. There's plenty there, 1 box per person, please, and there's plenty for everybody. And then figure out how you're going to access a color scanner, whether you're going to use the library, whether you have one at home, whether your printer is also a scanner. Any friend has one, neighbor has one that they're going to let you use, whatever, but you will need access to scan your drawings so that we can share them electronically between everyone. And again, the university has those available, so and you're all registered students, so you have access to those things. But figure it out. I don't want you to wait until the first week when I say I need you to scan your drawings and send them to me, and you say I don't have a scanner, I don't know where to go. By then it's too late, and we're running behind. So figure that out this week. So this is my favorite course. Several alumni have brought up things they've learned in this course in job interviews, and in every case, the ones that have told me about it got the job. It gives you an end product that you can add to a portfolio to take to job interviews. Don't just show up to a job interview with 2 copies of your resume and a nice new suit on, right? Bring some work product with you, papers you've done over the course of your academic career, and this drawing and this project and your budget and things go together very nicely in a portfolio. So it's something you could take to a job interview. It's going to expose you to some of the realities around how security managers need to think and react to change. Even though you may have the best physical security in the world, you're never going to get it funded if something in there is going to affect the business in a negative way. And we're going to openly talk about those things. So it's going to give you a real life view of how to apply physical security principles in the workplace. It's going to get real. So now I told you 45 minutes. I'm at 51 and 52 minutes. I apologize. I shall yield back 6 minutes to you sometime in the course of the semester. But get to work. You're back to school now. Break is over. I will see you in February in person, and I will be in contact this week with each of you in the discussion board. So look for my messages and those of others because they're required responses. With that, have a great week, and I'll see you on campus.